Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is not our contention to decry democracy, as both these gentlemen will have you believe as we go through the evening. We're not saying that democracy is bad, that as a form of governance, it should be done away with. Neither are we suggesting for a moment that we, wise men, have an option for India. Our analysis pertains to the period post-1947, in which many of you left us with trials and tribulations. A period where we've seen the many facets of democracy, some of which have worked, some of which haven't. It's a weakness much like what happened with Achilles' mother when she dipped him into the Styx, hoping that both his heels would be armed with vigor and encouragement, and later figured that she'd only dunked one, not the other. The reality is, Mani Shankar Iyer, who I admire and is a very dear friend of mine, lost the general elections in 2009. He's now a member of India's parliament. If that isn't a paradox, what is? We're the only country in the world which can actually predict future prime ministers. So I can tell you there will be another Gandhi that will rise over the horizon with great adroitness. So there are these realities of India which we must come to terms with. Is it bad to have a Gandhi in power? I don't imagine so, because look at the kind of options we've had in the past. So the reality is, these are some of the issues that are hampering India's growth today, and often enough, democracy is used as that crutch. Bridget talked about a glue. I don't want to make it sound as romantic. For everything that goes wrong in India, we ascribe it to, oh, never mind, but we are a democracy. Can democracy be allowed to become an excuse for the lack of good governance? I would imagine not. Should democracy be allowed to be manipulated when things go awry? I would imagine not. But that's exactly what's happened. Bridget talks about corruption. There is corruption in India. And we blame corrupt leaders, or we mention corrupt leaders and say that, look, they are corrupt, but what the hell? They've been elected. So you have a chief minister who presides over a massacre of one particular community who's been elected thrice. So what's his crutch? His crutch is, I couldn't be bothered about human rights. I couldn't be bothered about massacres, but I've been elected. There was an earlier debate which I'd spoken in, the topic of which was, with forms of government, let fools contest. That which is governed best is best. But that's not what we're here to say. We are saying that many of the problems that afflict India today in its present situation have been caused by our overarching dependency on the form rather than on the substance of governance that we've adopted. So it's not democracy, it's the manner in which we've used democracy. It's not democracy as an electoral process. It's the manner in which democracy has been used to ward off every conceivable good and welcome evil wholeheartedly. And that's my worry. If you look at what's happening with harnessing natural or national assets, be it iron ore, be it mining, be it tribal welfare, money was ministered one time for the Panchayat Raj, which is basically a form of the lowest form of local government at the village level. We haven't made those strides. Today, you have a decent government which is hampered by coalition politics because the structure of democracy is such. So our contention is that democracy in an absolute term must never exist as an excuse for bad governance. It cannot be the raison d'etre for doing things wrong, and it neither can be a justification for not doing things right. And we have enormous examples in the Indian context which exactly highlight what I'm saying. The tragedy is that, is there an alternate form of government? No. But like Achilles, we recognize that democracy is a weakness. We also realize that it's a weakness which can be strengthened. And I'm not here to talk about all the wrongs alone, but I think we need electoral reforms within the domain of democracy. And those electoral reforms need to happen. You can't have thugs and crooks and absolute scoundrels in parliament. You've got to have decent people, but then they get up and lose elections. So where are we left with? And who are we left with? The tragedy also is that if you analyze India's parliament today, 37% are the three Bs. Well, in Hindi they're called Behan, Bivi and Bahu, which basically means she's either your sister or your wife or your daughter-in-law. Now, is that a bad thing? Often the argument is, but look, what the hell, she got elected in an election. So it really doesn't matter if I'm perpetrating a dynasty. It's not that. It's the dynasty and the use of dynastic politics, as it were, that you use to justify all the wrongs that are happening. So what are we essentially saying for the motion? We're saying that in today's India, whether it is the leadership or whether it is people in industry, they have manipulated the existing form of government, which they've called democracy. So they've said, because the people have elected us, we can do what the hell we want. And they've been doing it with great aplomb. Our contention is that that needs to be tempered. So we don't need another form of government, but what we certainly do need are course corrections within this particular form, because this form in its present condition is dragging the country down. It's not about 9% growth. It's not about being the third or fourth largest economy. I believe last week we overtook Japan. I mean, now that's one additional statement. I don't think we can really be proud of overtaking Japan in Japan's present condition, but then we weren't that plotted too. So our contention is that if you're actually analyzing the growth, and if you're actually analyzing the development that India's seen in the last couple of decades, you've got to analyze it in the context of just one thing. Has the quality of human development improved or not? And the tragedy is it hasn't. We have a robust judiciary, but is it enough to send corrupt people to jail? Are you actually able to change the system? Because if you don't hit at the lowest, at the edifice itself, which in this case is electoral reforms, you're never going to get enduring change. So I'd end by saying that we need to do 3 or 4 things urgently. One is we need to stop making excuses for misgovernance and bad governance and blame it on democracy, and which is what we've been doing. The current architecture of India's democracy is inherently weak because it allows a 5-year period to people with no cause for either recall or for abstinence or for none of the above in your election program. The third, I genuinely believe that democracy is relevant only if democracy actually provides equal opportunities. Enough has been written and said about the denial of equal opportunities. Basic human rights, such as the right to education, for which we've only recently had a bill introduced, such as the right to health. So those rights need to be installed. I mean, you can't have an overarching form of government called democracy and deny people these very basic human rights. 4, I think it's important for us to recognize that there is an inherent weakness in the kind of democracy we practice. And that weakness needs to either be eliminated or course corrected. Finally, we're not here promoting a Gaddafi kind of governance model, or for that matter, a dictatorial form of government. We're saying that in the current context of democracy as it is in India, it is an inherent weakness for every Indian as a whole. It's not about certain classes developing while the others languish in poverty or because of the denial of opportunity. Thank you so much.